If you have ever been bullied, intimidated, deliberately humiliated, scapegoated, silenced, judged, ridiculed, or punished for setting boundaries, then stay tuned because this video is for you. Today, I'm going to be talking about adult bullying, what it looks like, why they do it, and how it affects the victims and what the victims can do to overcome it. So let's start with what this looks like. It's said statistically that 1 in 3 adults are reportedly bullied by other grown-ass adults. So what does this look like? As I said in the intro, it might just be verbal insults, comments under their breath, something that diminishes you or makes you feel badly about yourself in some way. It can extend to a complete sabotage of your personal or professional reputation, such as these narcissistic smear campaigns, which I have unfortunately been a target of a few, and currently am in the present moment. Rarely, and I think this is interesting, will an adult bully tread into the realm of physical violence, because that then could actually get them in trouble, which is probably a whole other video as far as the justice that we as adults can get for what other adults do to harm us intentionally. Because here's the thing, to some extent, we can expect children to bully each other as they develop. They're on the playground, they're learning to assert themselves, set boundaries, and maybe because of lowest self-esteem and insecurity, they need to be more domineering and controlling in order to fulfill that sense of themselves. But when they grow up and they're teenagers and they're bullying other classmates at school or worse online, we start to get into some very serious consequences that I have to be careful not to mention here. But lives are literally lost, and lives can be drastically impacted when we get into teenage years and above. In my personal situation, I'm 50 years old, and I have women in their 30s and also in their 60s currently bullying me right now. And I mean, this is perpetual, consistent, relentless behavior that has been going on for years. And it has come in the form of spreading lies about me, discrediting me personally and professionally. There has even been very dramatic attempts to turn my own husband against me and actually have him divorce me, simply because I do assert myself and I do set boundaries. And because of my past and the healing work I've done, I do not tolerate nor engage with narcissistic or intentionally harmful behavior, especially when it's being directed at me and it's unprovoked. So let's look at why they do it. Well, going back to what we talked about with the childhood bullies, adult bullies are people who have narcissistic qualities. I am not one to put labels. Labels are judgment, but the reality is, whether you call it a bully, a narcissist, specifically malignant narcissists, which now goes into the realm of abusers and people who are violent at home domestically, we see the same patterns of behavior. We can make a checklist of so-called red flags, but the reality is they feel entitled, justified in mistreating other people, and they do it so that they feel better about themselves. They need to fulfill their ego with power, that control, that dominance. Because when they feel that power to control your mood, to be able to manipulate you into reacting a certain way, oh, that gives them a real big sense of themselves that they interestingly don't have otherwise. Yes, they walk around like there's something else. And yes, there's sometimes a sense of arrogance, like I said, that entitlement that they do want other people to admire and respect and basically bow down to them. So if you're like me and you're that person that, you get what you give kind of a thing, and you don't bow down, you can be courteous, you can be kind, I'm respectful, I won't engage though, then you become a threat, you become a problem. And God forbid you have a quality that they don't see within themselves and they don't realize that they can have. Maybe it's even somebody you're with, a relationship they envy about you. Maybe it's your physical appearance. Maybe it's an accomplishment. But if you have something that they don't have or don't believe they can ever have, then yes, you are a threat to them. You are a threat to their sense of themselves. And that is why you, like me, become a target. So now, how does a victim get affected by this? Well, the obvious ways that victims are affected are emotionally, psychologically. You see anxiety, depression, a lot of low self-esteem and sense of low self-worth. And of course you do. I've felt that too. It's hard not to feel bad and hurt at the very least when people are insulting you and mocking you and humiliating you and just repeatedly telling you who they think you are. And I'd even argue that they don't really believe that you're this lowly, awful person that they are trying to make you out to be, or perhaps monstrous, villainous person like some make me out to be. It's that they have to believe that you are that type of person in order to feel justified in mistreating you in that way. Because the other aspect of this is that adult bullies rarely go on their own. I mean, let's be real. Somebody that feels entitled to mistreat you so that they feel a sense of power and dominance and control, these aren't people who are comfortable walking through life alone. They always have, well, I'm just going to say it, they have minions. You can call them flying monkeys like we do in the realm of narcissism, but they always rally others to believe what they believe specifically about you if you are the target, right? So it starts with their family and their friends, people close to them, because those people aren't going to ask questions, right? Those people are going to believe all the awful things they say about you, all the lies, all the gossip, all the, I know this person personally, even if they've never even met you, they will get these people to believe something about you. So then those people feel entitled and justified to mistreat you the way that that bully encourages them to do, which is usually through social media. Maybe it's through excluding you in some way, whether this is from family events, social situations, or in a toxic workplace, forgetting to tell you about a meeting or a new policy. It can also come in forms of bullying you through ways that you don't even see coming. They could get to people that your friends and your family, and sort of come off as if they have some inside knowledge about you that now influences those people's perceptions of you. And you'll start to notice a shift in the way people are with you. Maybe somebody doesn't call or text you as often as they did, or maybe somebody's, nice and polite, but not as friendly as they used to be or forthcoming. So this is very, very well sensed and felt for the victim themselves. So of course it's going to cause some anxiety and some depression and some low self-worth. Where we do get into caution, though, and where it becomes a concern for me is in my unfortunate realm of expertise, where that emotional distress begins to manifest physically. Because anybody that knows me knows my debut memoir entitled Gasping for Air, The Stranglehold of Narcissistic Abuse. It references the rare lung syndrome that I developed after living in fight or flight mode for 40 years of my life. First in my abusive childhood, and then in my very volatile first marriage, which lasted 25 years. So when we have these things in our minds that cause us emotional distress, this is more than just hurt feelings. The reality of the mind-body connection is that your emotions, your thoughts, the things that you are feeling about yourself inside begin to manifest and affect your stress hormones. It affects your cardiovascular health. It affects even your muscular health, whether your muscles stiffen, especially like I'm one of these that gets tight shoulders. It affects your ability to think and discern with clarity. It kind of fogs up your brain, and there's so much to it, but all of these things happening internally then manifest into inflammation. Inflammation causes cancer. It could affect your immune system. It affects so many parts of your biology that when we go back to the origin, the source, that this person said some just really crappy thing to you or about you, publicly humiliating you and turning people against you so that they could feel, all good about themselves. It's really, and I'm going to say it, it's antisocial and psychopathic behavior. Let's just call it what it is. And I have looked up the definitions, the DSM definitions, medical definitions of antisocial behavior and psychopathy, and bullying, malignant narcissism, abusive behaviors do fall within those realms very easily. So I'm not talking outside of my bounds. So we have to look at the reality of this. Can we change these people? Well, unfortunately, not without them wanting to change for themselves. They have to have some sense of self-awareness to want to affect change for themselves. They have to feel badly and have some empathy for what they're doing so that they do choose better and treat people better going forward. Unfortunately, just a personal belief, but when I look at narcissism itself, specifically malignant narcissism, and I would again categorize adult bullies and any kind of abuser, anybody who causes intentional harm to another human being, oftentimes in my experience, lacks empathy. They lack remorse. And that is also one of the key components to this, because again, they feel entitled to mistreat you. They encourage others to feel the same sense of entitlement and rally all these people together. And they essentially mob you if you're the target. But the problem, again, is that you cannot change these people. So often, if you are the victim or the target, you go back and you say, but no, I'm not. That's not true. You could even have proof to disprove what they say about you. You can actually think that you have a chance at regaining your reputation if this is, in a situation that's professional or in the workplace. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you do. They are not going to change. And people, unfortunately, are going to believe what they want to believe. As a matter of fact, when I spoke on stage at the Chicago Women's Expo last year, I talked about the neuroscientific fact that it only takes hearing something as little as 2 times for your brain to actually begin to believe those statements are true. Twice. So when you're looking at how these narcissists, these bullies, these abusers spread these stories about you to other people, complete, total fabricated lies that have no basis in truth, that you might even have proof to prove that they're not true. Unfortunately, once people have decided, have chosen to believe that is true about you, that's their choice. So, what do you do if you're the victim? Here's the part you want to listen up to. I call it the 3 Ps. We're going to pause, probe, and pivot. The pause is exactly what it is. Don't react. You owe no explanation. There's nothing you can say or do that's going to stop them from being who they are. We have to armor ourselves on the inside. So when you pause, you're going to take a deep breath in and blow, exhale out longer than you inhaled. And I would do this a few times. And the reason for this is not just to pause or stall yourself from responding. You are actually resetting your nervous system, re-regulating your nervous system so that you can move forward with some clarity. Because in those deep breaths, there are things happening in your brain that are calming you. There are hormones and chemicals being released to calm you, give you clarity, regain focus, and regain some sense of control over how you respond. So that's your pause. The next part is pivot. Probe. Probe is the second one. Probing is when you're going to stop and ask yourself, why is this bothering me so much? So for example, the other day I had one of these, what I call minions, call them flying monkeys, whatever. This person came at me, have no idea who they are, never met him in my life. I absolutely know where they got their information from. I know where this was sourced in, and it's one of the females who's been bullying me for the last 5 or 6 years. And the things that this person came at me with, they were mocking me and laughing that I was a quote keynote speaker. And so in my probe, I'm like, okay, but I am a keynote speaker. I've spoken on stage all across the country. I speak in virtual summits globally. I am a speaker. So, okay, that doesn't bother me. I'm not going to let it bother me because it's true. So laugh all you want. I take it very seriously. I'm advocating for victims of abuse and bullying and domestic violence, and I will do it for the rest of my life as long as I live. They were also laughing at me and humiliating me, actually attacking my parenting, which is interesting because, again, I've never met this person. I don't put much out, if anything, really, about my son on social media for privacy purposes. So you're attacking my parenting again in this probe. Why is this bothering me? Because this person doesn't even know me. So why would I be bothered by a stranger's perception of something they don't even know anything about? They couldn't even tell me my kid's name if they tried. And so you're going to do the same thing. You're going to say, why does this bother me? Because more times than not, I'd actually be willing to bet that all the time that this happens, if somebody says something to you, insults you, mocks you, humiliates you, the reason it bothers you is because maybe somewhere deep inside, and I'm going to hold your hand while I say this, but maybe you believe this to be true about yourself. And this is kind of why it's really important for me to speak to this, because in my own healing from abuse and domestic violence and bullying, I have discovered that it's really our own subconscious beliefs about ourselves, which is really the only thing we can control, that is going to be the source of how we heal. It's our core beliefs about ourselves that decide whether we're bothered or not by the comments that are made. And I always use it as an example, something Tony Robbins did. He was giving a talk and he asked an audience member, or I should say he said to an audience member, I don't like your blue hair. And she said, well, I don't have blue hair. She had brown hair like me. And he said, well, I still don't like your blue hair. And she's like, okay. She didn't have blue hair. She wasn't bothered by it, right? That's the point. But if you had blue hair and somebody said, I don't like your blue hair, would that make you feel a certain way? Because there's 2 ways to respond to that. You're either going to feel bad about your blue hair, which tells me that you probably subconsciously thought, gosh, I don't know if I like this blue hair. Maybe this is too much. Maybe this is too bold. Maybe this is too something. Or you're going to be like, well, hell, I like it. So, to hell with you. I hope you do the latter. But that brings me to the third part of this. You paused, you probed, asked those questions. Now is where the pivot comes in. The pivot is choosing the alternate path, right? If you normally go through the shrinking process, like they said this terrible thing, they said they don't like my blue hair, and now I'm not sure if I like my hair either, and you're feeling bad, then choose differently. Say, you know what, look in the mirror and be like, you know what, either I don't like my blue hair. You know what, this person brought up a good point. I wasn't sure if I liked it either. So maybe I'm going to go change my hair to something I do like and I feel confident in, and that I will back up the next time somebody says they don't like my hair color. Or you're going to look in the mirror and be like, well, I like it. Might be my favorite color, whatever it is. And so I'm going to roll with it and to hell with them. So that's the pivot. Choose the different path instead of having that pity party, which, believe me, I've had so many and I'm the only one who ever attends them. But if you normally have a pity party and feel bad about yourself, just don't. Brush it off. I know it sounds simple and it's not that easy to let go of hurt feelings, but I certainly want you to feel your feels and express them. Write them in a journal. Breathe a little more if you have to. Cry. I cry. I'm perimenopausal too, but I've always been a crier. Release it, because suppressing your emotions is just going to keep it stored in your body. Your body will never forget. So release it however you need to. Go to a rage room, cry, hug your pillow, whatever you got to do, but then say, okay, move on, because you need to be firm in who you are so that the next time they come at you, you can be like, okay, that's great that you feel that way. That is your opinion, your perspective, not going to affect my life, right? So pause, probe, and pivot. And if you want more information about how you can actually overcome any adversity in your life, it could be any kind of struggle, adversity, trauma. Maybe you're being bullied too. Maybe you're in a toxic workplace situation or an abusive relationship. I absolutely hope that you will visit my website, danasdiaz.com, because I created few courses that are very affordable and self-guided, and they help you to build boundaries, cultivate confidence, and learn to discern and decide better so that you can move forward into a more conscious and intentional life, the life you choose, the life you deserve, because you have been tolerating less than you deserve for too long. And you're not alone. There's no shame or judgment. As a matter of fact, statistics prove that over half of adult Americans in this country do monitor themselves. They silence themselves and abandon their own values and opinions to keep the peace in social and familial situations. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to anymore. You can give yourself permission to be exactly who you are and to stand firm and stand tall in that. So remember, when you're in those situations, pause, probe, and pivot. Then go to danasdiaz.com, click the courses tab in the top left. You can choose Jumpstart, which is just $47, and you can do it within a few hours. Or you can choose Power Up, which is $497. And I'm going to tell you what, you get out of it what you put into it. There's actionable steps, tools, exercises, journal prompts, things you can do on a daily basis every single day going forward that'll build those boundaries, cultivate the confidence, and help you decide and discern better, and with the end goal of living the life that you truly want and deserve. So have a beautiful day. And don't forget again to go to danasdiaz.com, follow me for more, and check out my other videos. Thank you.